Hello and welcome back to Factorio Vanilla 1.0. In the last episode, we finally got oil going, and I just went out and put radars down along the rail line just so that we had good radar coverage along the rails. And then I wanted to come back here because now that we have basic oil processing going, we can make red circuits. And we can make blue cyan. So that's today's task. So I'm going to drive down here and start setting up something here along the bus for red circuits. We'll put it right here after the science labs. Probably going to need to clear some trees. I'll probably just do what I have to do and not all of it. Nope, that's not the right spot. That's the right spot. We were doing some research. We did night vision equipment. We could do belt immunity equipment. Sure. So, red circuits. There are a couple different ways that I've seen red circuits built. There's a couple different ways that, well, there's several different ways I've seen them built. There's a couple different ways that I have actually built them. Sure. Personal batteries. The first way is... The two ways that I've done it are very similar. They all base around put one more down, a red circuit recipe, and that requires plastic and electronic circuits and copper cable. The copper cable here, it requires 4 every 6 seconds. Copper cable itself produces 2 every half second, so that's 4 per second. So if we're producing 4 per second of copper and we need 4 every 6 seconds of red circuits, that means that we can do 6 red circuit machines. 2, 3, 4, 5, one more. 6. Pretty simple math. 4 per second, need 4 per 6 seconds, 6 machines. Just like kind of like how we did the math on the science. I'm just going to do a bunch of these researches while we're talking here. So that's all pretty standard. You do something like this, you copy it over here on the other side, and then you kind of fill 2 belts somehow or other with this stuff. The difference that I've done is how you work the copper and the belt of copper, the belt of green circuits, the belt of plastic into the system. So if you look at this, we need to make 1 advanced circuit. We need 2 plastic, 2 electronic circuits, and 4 copper cables. 4 copper cables means 2 copper plates per second. So you basically need 2, 2, and 2. And so what you can do with that is, that means you need a belt of copper, a belt of plastic, a belt of green circuits, in order to make a half a belt of red circuits. You can also do you can do this a couple different ways. So you can have a copper belt coming in here, say, and then you insert it into these machines, and then you output it onto a belt here. You have your full belt of plastic or full belt of green circuits here. You duplicate this. I'll do the whole thing. You also need another copper belt here, copper wire belt here. You do the same thing just like this. And then you put an output belt of red circuits on the outside. On both outsides. So you have a full belt of copper. Actually, you only need a half belt of copper coming in here. A half belt of copper coming in here. A half belt of copper coming in here. And then you end up with a full belt of plastic, a full belt of green circuits. And then you output the copper cable onto really just half of the belt here and half the belt here. And you end up with a quarter of a belt of red circuits here, a quarter of a belt of red circuits here. Mix them together, you end up with a half a belt in the end. That's one option of how to build this. The other option, and this is the one that I've tended to do, just because it's a little bit more compact, and I can just build more of these arrays. And that is still having the copper coming in here. But instead of having a whole belt of copper, you just do half a belt of copper. And then you flip the wire back out onto the outside of this belt sort of the same way we did with red science with the gears. Same kind of concept, except that instead you have copper going in and copper wire going out, kind of like that. And then here in the middle, you do an input belt, half belt of plastic, half belt of green circuits, and you do an output belt of red circuits, and then you just copy these back over again there, and you have your input belt here, and like this, and then you have a green circuit array that makes, eventually, if you stretch it out long enough, makes a quarter of a belt of red circuits. And this is the one that I usually build, just because it's a little bit simpler, a little bit narrower, and it gets you started earlier with a little bit less materials. What we might do is do 2 of these side by side even. Save the space for it. I'm going to build the whole thing right now. And that'll give us a half belt of red circuits. I feel like I'm doing the math wrong here. No, it's 2, 2, and 2 is 1. So that means we need 2 belts of each in order to make 1 belt of red circuits. Yeah, I'm doing the math right. Okay. Red circuits is one that messes up a lot of folks, I think, and it definitely messes me up. These are all just, what I'm doing is a lot of like personal equipment, which we're going to get once we can build the next suit, once we have red circuits going. But for now, this is what we're going to work on, or that's what we're working on. So I want to make sure this works out correctly here. I think so. I lined it up correctly, I think. So this is the one I'm going to build. I'm going to reserve space for another one of these right next to it, just so we have the space reserved. But we're just going to build one segment of this array, and then we'll add more segments as we need them. Because you can chain these, by the way, just like this. Well, just like this. Here after it, I think you can do 3 or 4 of them with a yellow belt. I'll have to check the math on it. I always have to check the math on it. And it's basically how much... Well, if you're using... Here it is. If you're using 2 per second for each half of this array, so using 4... This uses 4 per second of each item. Actually, it's 3 per second because these machines are 0.75. Using 3 per second of each input item. That means that you can do 5 of these in a line. Okay. To use 1 full belt of copper, 1 full... No, I'm sorry. Math is wrong again. Hold on. Check the math. This uses 2 per second, 2 per second. So that's actually 3 per second total. We're only getting 7.5 in of each item. So actually we can only go out to almost 3, 2.5. Then once we upgraded red belts, we can fit 5. That's what it is. That's why it always screws me up. Okay, so the next thing is... Oh, and the other thing about the wider one is, then you end up having to do the sort of staggered red inserters like we did with... here with engines, where I have the undergrounds. So it's a lot more expensive of a build, and also more effort to do when you don't have bots. So let's do this. We want a power pole... Where do I want the power poles? I think I want a power pole out here, in here, and then I want to do the power poles like this. And we'll have to have one in the center, of course. Yeah, I think that'll work. So we need a copper cable in here. We need to have, and then we'll do that again. Let's put them there in the center. And then we need to have... This is out. Let's put the outputs there. And then inputs for plastic and green circuits there. And then mirror it over here. Sort of mirror it. This is going to be outputs out. And then inputs in there. And the reds are more than fine enough because we only need... whatever it was, 4 items in 6 seconds. Yeah. And actually, it's 4 items in more seconds. 3 items in 6 seconds. 4 items in 8 seconds. Yeah. So that'll let us fill this out and make one of these arrays. And this will make it just a tiny bit of circuits at this point, but that's kind of all we need at this point just to get blue science going. Okay. Do, do, do. Do, do, do. Character is in the way. Get that character out of the way. I'll do the other side later after I have this all built so that I can flip it around one time. Okay, and then we need to bring in, of course, power in here someplace. And then we need to bring all the belts down for them all, or for the bus. Let's see, refined flammables 2. This boosts fire damage, flamethrower turret damage. I may actually do flamethrower turrets. We don't need iron, although I should bring it down. Just so that it's there. Car's gonna be in the way. Okay. Green circuits we do need, and we're probably gonna need to make or expand our array of those. Circuits. Copper we do need. We're probably gonna need to add another copper array. When I say probably, I kind of mean definitely. And then plastic is this one. Yeah. That's going to have to go under anyway. Out of belts. Out of belts. There's my chest of stuff. Oops. That's a nice sound, though. I like that sound. You ran into a big metal box. It sounds like a big metal box. Boom, boom. You need lots of belts when you're working on a bus. Stuff in the way. I'm going to hop out because I'm going to have to chop those trees and stuff. Some of them. That one. And the one that I hit. Okay. And then plastic. Those are the most important ones to move. I can extend the rest once I have some robots as needed. Okay. So what I like to do, I've done this a couple of different ways too. The way that I kind of like to do this, well, first of all, let's make sure that I put the space for the science bus in here. Of course. Copper is fine to bring across. But with the plastic and the green circuits, especially when I build two of these next to each other, I actually like to do something similar to the smelting arrays. I need trees. All the trees. Too many trees. All the tree pain. Okay. I like to do something similar to the smelting arrays and build a... oh, that's in the way. Can't put that there. You gotta go down further. Right there. And do a side-loaded belt. Let's do stronger explosives. 2. And let's see. I want to do this away from the science bus. If I do it here, is that going to be okay? Yeah, that'll be good. Do that there. This one here will go out and over to the next array, which I should probably also do at least some reservation for it. I'm going to actually go ahead and blueprint the whole thing here. And watch out for the power pole. Can I get real close here? I can. Trees in the way. Let's do it right there. And this part actually doesn't count. So I didn't even have to get that close. This goes over and connects into here. This one comes out. Nope, I need to move this up one. Because I need to have an underground. You know what? Actually, I won't do an underground. I'll go over here because this one's going to come back out as well. And it'll meet up with that one. Eventually. Okay, so this can go... Oh. Spaghetti. You know what? Actually... let's do it differently then. I want to get this planned out before I actually build it all. Do that, because this is going to need to do an underground there. And then these can actually just go like that. And that'll go in like that. Okay. So we need to have a belt of one or the other of them coming down there. And a belt of the other coming down here. And now that I have those, I can show how this works. There. There. These right? Yeah, they're right. There. There and there. Let's go ahead and do the copper while we're at it. And this is here. And there. And I'm just going to take this out for now. Okay, so you see we have copper cable being made. And being put on the far side of the belt on both sides. We have a solid belt of green circuits and plastic. Well, solid half belt of each coming in. These are now running. It's going to take them a minute to get them all running. Actually, these should all be... Oh, the copper cable's got to make its way down the belt yet. That'll take a moment. Because it's got to buffer everything up. And that's what we need the most of, is copper cable. Let's start another research. Follower robot count. That'll be useful. Because I do want to actually build some follower robots. Specifically, the defender capsules. Before we go out and do some spider hunting again. Alright, the copper cable's making its way down. Like I said, it takes a minute. Let's go ahead and put out some light. Light would be good. How about we put it like that, maybe? Uh-huh. That's probably good. I could maybe do some up here. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, let's copy these and paste it down there. That way we get the lights in the blueprint. So this works just like the coal and ore on either side of the belt concept, except that I'm just sending the other half of the items over here, so it's kind of like a large smelting array. I'm just loading it onto the side here instead of onto the top of the belt like you would do there. And we now have lots of red circuits being made. So red circuits are going on the bus. I think I was going to put them here. One past the steel and plastic. So let's go all the way up to the bus with this. Or to that part of the bus with this. I'm going to run out of undergrounds. Oh, actually I'm going to make just enough undergrounds. This goes up one more. Let's see here. Alright, and then we can run back along I had just enough undergrounds. I can run back along the bus, but I don't actually want to go too far. Because we need to put those in somewhere. Ah, they come in. One of them comes in here. What do we want? Which one do we want? This is red circuits right here. Because we want the sulfur to come in here. Before I do that, let's actually hook up the iron for this. And then let's hook up, let's see, with steel on this belt. Iron, or the iron components are on this belt. Steel's on this belt. And then that's the output. Yeah, so steel goes here. I need more undergrounds. So, let's see. Follow robot count 2. That'll work. And we can bring the belt of sulfur down with us. Undergrounds. I probably should grab some more belt, too. You and maybe a couple hundred more of those. Should do it nicely. Bring the sulfur with us. Brakes. Back up. Okay, so, do I want to do... Yeah, I'll just do it this way. And this belt actually can end at this point, wherever this point is. Sulfur, right? That just went too far. It went just too far. It actually doesn't need to continue along the bus. I did not hook up steel because we did not have the underground. So let's hook up the steel because the engines are going to take a little bit to spin up. And we have a solid belt of the other stuff, so... Oh, trunk's in the way. I was like, why is the car blocking the belt from being placed? Let's see. This one... is in here. This needs to go there. You can continue along. This needs to come back just a little bit. Sulfur's going in here. And like I said, this is the end of this belt. So we can terminate it there. And then red circuits go in here in a straight line. Yeah, we definitely need more stone and stuff for brick. Holy cow. There. There. And this one definitely needs to be split. Because that needs to go toward the mall soon. And we should now get blue science. I see the engines coming along. They're finally spinning up. You can see how this is working. We talked about this when we built this several episodes ago. Is that the last one? Yeah, it's the last one. Let's do that. And then we'll get blue science started. Good timing, I guess. You can see that these are filling in when they can. Priority is on the belt, but they fill in enough, and we get a half belt of pipe, a half belt of gears, and that makes the engines, or makes most of the engines with the steel. We have engines and sulfur crystals here, and we have red circuits coming in here, and they're already starved out. We're going to have to extend this array, of course. We probably could go ahead and do that. That's a long, long belt. We should have blue science, though. Yes, we do. There's the first of the blue science right there. So now, once weapon shooting speed is done, we can start a blue science research. And the reason weapon shooting speed is taking so long is because it's actually a large amount of science packs needed. And we're sparse on military science because of the walls. We don't have any brick, hardly. Wow. Yeah, that is sparse indeed. Because we don't have any stone. Oof. That is... Wait, what's going on here? We must have some iron being clogged. Oh, because I'm not actually using this iron anywhere. Iron's clogging up the stone. Okay, we actually have more stone than we need. I need to bring that iron forward, put it into a smelting array over here on this end of the bus. We're going to add another one here. And feed that iron into it, or maybe we can feed that iron into steel and move this one around. Doesn't matter. And make some more iron smelting here because we're going to need it anyway. And then we have this copper ready to go. I didn't hook it up yet, so we could belt that in too and get that ready to go. Let's see. We do have time for that. Let's go ahead and do that actually. Get that iron and possibly the copper from the old area pulled forward. We'll need some more belts for this. And that'll give us time to build up a little bit of blue science so that the research goes faster. Alright, Wally, quit hitting stuff. Yep, I hit more stuff. Okay. Belts. That's what I was after. Belts, belts, and more belts. Too many belts. Perfect. Yeah, I think actually what I'm going to do is cut this belt off here. It's going to steel that I don't have room for. All of that. Vacuum that up. And then I can bring that other belt over and feed it into steel. We don't need that third belt coming from the mine as much as we need to get rid of this. That was a tree. That's fine. Although I guess I probably should have moved the stone belt down. And out of the way. Let's see. I think I will put the copper belt on the bottom. So the copper belt can come this way. Stone can go there. I'll just pick these up. It'll be fine. And then iron can come in here. Forgot about the squiggle. Man, I wish I had bots. But I'll get them soon enough. And in the meantime, we can do the driving build method until I mess it up. And find where there's that last piece of stone. So I need to be careful that I don't leave this spot. And follow along gently, nicely, and disconnect that belt from the stone input. Once that stone passes, before the iron gets there, otherwise we'll have a mess on our hands. I'm not talking because I need to be patient, and I'm not a very patient person. Okay, that's good. Park the car. This connects to there, that continues on. This goes down somewhere for the copper. This needs to continue on. In a straight line. Let's do it this way, I suppose. Excellent. Good timing that. And that at least consumed that iron on that belt for steel. It's not like it's full belt, but we'll come over here and top this off and get it working. And then also lets this copper continue going, which we can fill that up as well once we start using it. Am I splitting any copper off? No, because copper is a completely isolated patch. So it's coal, iron, and stone that are so close together here. But that'll let this iron come off of this. Actually, it's done. I could have just cleaned it up a little bit, and it would have been done. We're getting... No, we're not getting any. There might be a little bit of coal here still. Yeah, there is. So the coal needs to still get shunted off and flushed out. But we have no stone. So... one of the first tasks we're going to do is come out and get rid of this stone, but I wanted to have blue science going first because I would like to get cliff explosives and blow these cliffs up here so I can continue the train line. Maybe I'll even just bring it around and go this way, or maybe down a little closer and then go that way. Watching out for this oil field here, of course. Maybe I'll come... I don't know, I want to not necessarily drive the train over these, although... Perhaps. Oh, is that perfect or is that perfect? I can actually take the train down through here and then turn between these two stone patches with the track, and then I can put a station on one side or the other and just belt them both into the station. That would be beautiful. And then that'll be far enough south to get this iron, because I think, like we talked about, I think I'm going to clear this peninsula, wall this stuff off, wall off whatever needs to be the eastern line here, which hopefully can just be where it is. And then expand westward for resources and train them into the west end of the station here. Okay, we have finished gray science. Gray science without blue with it. There's stuff down here too. So the first thing that I used to always do for blue science is advanced oil processing. That gives us the ability to crack the oil products down into petroleum because it gives us these additional oil products. In the old days, this was effectively a requirement because you had to just tank up, because you basic oil processing gave you the heavy and light oils, so you had to kind of just tank those up and save them for and save them until you got advanced oil processing. Since they changed the basic oil processing recipe, it's not as necessary. But if you look at the ingredients here and the products, with basic oil processing, we're processing 100 crude oil every 5 seconds and getting 45 petroleum gas out of the deal. Compare that to even just the petroleum gas out of this deal, and you'll see that this is a much better deal. You get much more product for your crude if you do the advanced oil processing. So we're going to do this first still for that reason, not for the old reason, for the new reason. And then we're going to get into probably lasers and maybe mining productivity would be good at this point. What I want to look for before I activate, actually I'm going to select it, but before I activate this, what I want to look for is robot. Not follow robot count, but robotics, and then construction robotics. Those two, not so much the logistics that we'll get later also, but these two will come probably very, very soon, if not next after advanced oil processing. Because I want to rush into making batteries and then rush into making robots, specifically construction robots, so that we can have some personal roboports on our player, our character, and then be able to, let's see, let's go not that way, and then be able to more successfully build stuff out in the wild other than having to do this by hand. So you can see advanced oil processing is going very fast because we had a lot of blue science saved up. We're still making a lot, but we're going to need a lot more. So I think the next task is going to be doubling this, possibly even tripling it, even though we can only use 2.5. Getting the red circuits going, we can always do the second one too, although we're going to run out of green circuits too fast for that probably, not to mention copper and plastic. But I think we'll double this while we're doing the bot research, and then we'll build some batteries, and then we'll build some robots and keep going from there. So thank you all for joining me, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.